Good evening, everyone. Welcome to week 3 of Mental Health Mondays, presented by ShiftPosts for Pharmacy Appreciation Month. We are so thrilled to have you join us this evening and hope that you'll enjoy the session. My name is Caitlin Lopes. I will be guiding you through this session, and today's topic is centered on digital well-being. This webinar will explore the effects of technology on our mental health, how technology might help or harm our well-being, and offers tips for a healthier relationship with technology. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's start by taking some time to reflect using a few questions. Do you feel anxious when you're not checking your phone or another device? Do you often compare yourself to other people on social media? Do you think it might be a good idea to reduce your screen time? If you answered yes to any of those questions, it might be time to rethink your relationship with technology. So, before we go any further, let's define what we mean by technology here. When we talk about technology in this wellness session, we are talking specifically about communication technologies like computers, tablets, and smartphones, as well as any other technologies we may use to access things like websites, apps, email, text messaging, and games. Technology can be very helpful, even healthy. We use technology to keep in touch with family and friends, to date and find new people who share our interests through online groups or clubs, to make and publish songs, stories, videos, and other creative projects to share with our friends and with the world, and to learn new skills or advance our knowledge. We also use technology to watch videos that inspire us, move us, or make us laugh, to organize our time or tasks by using tools like calendars or checklists to schedule our priorities. We use technology to monitor our physical activity and health goals. And we also use it to find information to help us make more informed decisions in our life. We also use technology specifically in the healthcare industry for medication therapy management, which includes meds checks and other comprehensive reviews on medications in order to determine whether we should adjust immunization drug dosages for the purposes of reconciliation, when we're ordering and reviewing lab results. And medication therapy management is seen as absolutely essential to healthcare delivery, adherence to medication, and for improving patient outcomes, especially for those patients who suffer from chronic diseases. And medication therapy management has also been shown to cut costs while improving the quality of patient care and safety, which is fantastic. Another way we use technology specifically in pharmacy is through automated dispensing cabinets, or ADCs, also known as computerized medicine cabinets, which are widely used in many hospitals and pharmacies and other healthcare settings. And these ADCs allow medications to be stored and dispensed near the point of care while controlling and tracking drug distribution, which I'm sure many of you may know. And these are fantastic because they allow for a reduction in human error. They help us to increase fill time, increase our efficiency in fill time, and allows for staff to focus on patient contact rather than in filling the prescription. Another way we use technology is through prescription drug monitoring programs, which help us to track the dispensing of controlled substances, which is incredibly important for preventing substance abuse. Previously, it was difficult to keep track of the usage of opioid-based painkillers and also the reason for their use. And what we saw historically was before the implementation of these prescription drug monitoring programs that people were heavily misusing the prescriptions for their addiction. And after the installment of data analytics systems in pharmacies, it has greatly helped for our government to track these things on a large scale, as well as the sales and demands, thus keeping a closer eye on substance abuse and aiding in the creation of preventative measures to stop the prevalence of substance abuse. And lastly, we use telepharmacy services. So people living in rural areas where healthcare services are not readily available, or perhaps don't have properly developed pharmacy facilities, can have access to healthcare services by filling out prescription forms online and by using internet connections. And their prescription can actually be mailed to them and provided to them at their doorsteps. And it also provides the direct benefit of being in contact with a pharmacist to consult for their concerns regarding medical prescriptions and their medical condition. So when might technology become a problem? So technology use is a problem when it no longer helps and begins to cause some type of harm. Exactly how much use is too much use will depend on everyone's individual situation. When considering our digital well being, what is most important to consider is if the risks are outweighing the benefits. So, is technology enhancing our lives and contributing to our mental health, or is it hurting it? Different types of technology can elicit various emotional responses from us and can definitely negatively affect our self esteem and mental and physical health. So, to determine if this is the case, we can ask ourselves some questions. So, how much do you relate to each of these statements? I feel pressure to look a certain way on social media or other sites. I feel like I act differently to fit in, such as feeling pressure to hurt people. I worry about what would happen if important people in my life saw some of the things I've posted online. I feel disappointed if I don't immediately get a reply to my message or post. I can't ever see myself without my favorite technology for too long. And lastly, technology use is impacting my health, like sleep, eating habits, or my exercise routine. For some, however, technology can lead to more serious problems in their lives. So here are some more points to think about, which indicate a highly problematic relationship with technology and the need for digital well-being strategies, and perhaps even the requirement to talk with a mental health professional. So ask yourself, do you relate to any of these statements? I spend a great deal of time thinking about going online, using or checking my phone or other device. The amount of time I spend on technology, such as texting or spending time online, negatively affects other parts of my life, such as relationships, my performance at work or school, or necessary daily tasks. Using technology helps me ignore problems or difficult feelings, or avoid doing the things that I have to do. I feel nervous, anxious, or irritable when I don't have access to my phone or other device. I sometimes feel like I can't control my technology use. And lastly, I've tried to cut back on the technology use that's causing problems, but I just get back to old patterns. So let's talk about finding balance and tips for creating a healthy relationship with technology. So, for most of us, completely giving up technology is absolutely not realistic, nor is it likely necessary. But good strategies can help us to find a healthy balance by allowing us to enjoy the benefits of technology while minimizing harms, and allow us to achieve lasting digital wellness. So, what can we do? Getting a better, more detailed understanding of your tech use is the very first step towards improving your overall digital well being. So, we want to understand how we're using our devices. So, how do we do this? Well, we can learn more about how we're spending time in apps. So you can see insights on your daily screen time, how many notifications you get, and how often you unlock your phone in your time tab on the iPhone or in the dashboard if you're an Android user. Some apps also offer an integration for screen time insights. For instance, YouTube is an example. So, directly within the YouTube app, you can see how much you watch in a day, a week, or a month. And having awareness of these types of insights allows us to be more mindful with our technology use and to identify areas in which we can work to reduce our technology use. Next, setting boundaries for our technology use is also a very highly effective strategy. And one way that we can do this is by setting a schedule and sticking to it. You can manage your time spent in apps and on sites. So, if you want to limit the amount of time that you spend on a certain app, like Facebook, for instance, you can set a daily timer for that. Like I said, some apps offer greater insights than others. And I know that with apps like TikTok, for instance, you can set up a 1 hour timer so that the app will actually prompt you when you've gone over that time and make you enter a passcode if you'd like to continue. And setting limits for certain apps and sites can help us from spending excess amounts of time on them and from scrolling the day away. For other apps that don't offer that type of capability, you can always also set a timer on your phone or on your watch if that's something that works for you. If you want to only spend 15 minutes on Facebook, for instance, you can set a timer. Once the timer goes off, put it away, continue with your day. It's also important to regularly remind yourself to take a break from your devices. So you can set a reminder in your calendar or on your phone to schedule custom breathers as often as you want. And hopefully those physical reminders will encourage you to step away and take a break as well. And another part of setting boundaries is by establishing guidelines for our technology use and discussing our expectations with others in our lives. So, for example, you and your friends might agree to put your phones away when you're out for dinner. Maybe if a family member often texts you late at night about non urgent matters, you might want to set a boundary and let them know that you'll be winding down for bed and plan to stop checking messages at a certain time, right? So, those are some strategies that we can use to set boundaries. Next, minimizing your device use when with others is also a very great strategy, which not only helps to reduce our screen time, but also helps us to be more present in our relationships by helping us to give our full attention to the people that we're spending time with, and in turn, maximizing the quality of those in-person connections and interactions, which can help us to build stronger relationships, right? And this could look like maybe choosing not to check our phones when we're out for dinner with friends, as I mentioned in the previous slide, or perhaps regularly choosing off-screen activities over on-screen activities. So maybe you'll opt for going outside and playing soccer with the kids over watching a soccer game on TV or playing a soccer game based video game with them indoors, right? So those are ways that we can still enjoy the sport without using our digital devices. Next, social networking sites like Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn provide abundant social comparison opportunities. They are absolutely endless. Multiple research studies have shown that even brief exposure to social media can trigger social comparison, and that self-esteem and self-evaluations were lower when people viewed profiles of healthy or successful people. And I've included a bunch of different peer-reviewed scientific research studies surrounding this topic of how social media impacts our mental health and overall well-being. And I strongly recommend, if you're interested in the numbers and learning some more details about those studies, that you give those a read, because some of them are quite impactful. So, another way of protecting ourselves from the negative effects of technology, and particularly social media, is by actively avoiding the habit of comparing ourselves to people we see online, including your friends. So, what we have to remember is that usually people just post their good news and their best pictures online, right? And a lot of people also heavily edit their photos and use filters to make themselves look as good as possible. So, even though the tendency to compare ourselves to others is very natural, we have to be we have to be conscious not to take these comparisons too much to heart. And we have to be mindful of the fact that when we judge people subconsciously or even unconsciously as being better than us, that it often has negative mental and emotional health impacts on us. So let's explore some of those negative impacts in more detail. And like I said, those resources that I share are where I pulled this data from, and that's in the handouts section of the webinar. So social comparison can cause increased depression. So feeling envy and down on ourselves because of what others post on social media has been clinically associated with worsening depression. It can also cause decreased overall well-being. So research has found that people who are heavy users of social media, heavy users being defined as upwards of 5 hours a day of social media use, have been shown to have a lower sense of self, tend to suffer from depression, and many even have thoughts of suicide. Social media comparison results in poor body image. So while the idealized standards for men's and women's bodies are quite different, heavy social media usage has made both sexes much more vulnerable to having a poor body image and low self-esteem. And lastly, social comparison even leads some to developing eating disorders, since more time on social media has been associated with the desire to change one's body through disordered eating habits. One pervasive manifestation of this is the diet craze, and many other restrictive cleanses or diet pills or diet teas, which are very commonly promoted by influencers online, who have those idealized body types, and moreover, body types that have often been distorted or edited for social media. Okay. So those are some of the most negative impacts. So another way that we can develop resilience to the negative effects of technology is by practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness is defined as a skill that helps us to fully experience the present moment. It is essentially giving more attention to the moments that we're living in and moving through. Let's consider an example of this in practice. So, maybe you're the type of person who has the habit of mindlessly scrolling through your phone whenever you take your dog out for a walk. A change that you could implement to be more mindful is to instead leave your phone at home, or even just tuck it away in your pocket, to create the habit of being more in tune with your surroundings. So what's going on in the neighborhood? Paying attention to the crunch of leaves underneath your feet as you walk. Giving attention to how the sun feels as it hits your skin. How blue the sky is. How your dog is interacting with the things and people he or she comes across. Right? And as a result of doing this, you will likely be much less likely to scroll mindlessly through your phone while you're walking the dog, and you'll probably feel much better and more mentally recharged for doing so. Reducing distractions is another way in which we can improve our digital well being, and a great way to do so is by modulating our notifications. And we can do this in three ways. The first is by turning off unnecessary notifications. I think that we can all agree that many of the notifications that we receive on our phones and other devices throughout the day are truly not needed. So we can regularly go through our notification settings and turn off any notifications that are not part of our work or family obligations or another important obligation. You can also customize when and how you get notifications. And um, one strategy is by choosing notification settings that are less flashy, um, which can help keep your attention on your tasks. So, what do I mean by that? So, for instance, you might choose to receive your notifications for certain apps in the notification center only and not on your lock screen, so that when your phone is not in use, those aren't popping up and distracting you. For some notifications, you might opt for both a vibration and sound. And perhaps for some other less important notifications, just a vibration or even a silent notification is sufficient, right? And lastly, most devices now offer the option of removing the notification dots or those little indicators at the top of the app, which remind you of how many unread messages or updates you have missed. And these can be removed on most devices in the settings app. And by removing these indicators, we can help to reduce our urge to check email or social media when we don't intend to, right? So that's another distraction. Next, we can make simple adjustments to our screen. So, making changes to your screen can help you become even more purposeful when using your device. Three ways to do this are by number one, simplifying your home screen. So, removing those distracting apps from your home screen can make it easier to stay focused at the task at hand. So, maybe you love playing Scrabble. Whenever you play Scrabble on your mobile application, you end up playing it for an hour and a half, and you really want to stop doing that. So, just by simply removing it from your main home screen is a way that we can keep it out of sight and out of mind, right? And another way is by organizing our apps. So, having screens full of apps can be a distraction in itself, right? So, try cutting down the number of pages of apps that you have on your phone and maybe put specific apps that frequently distract you into a folder on a second page so that they're less visible. Again, that idea of out of sight, out of mind. And lastly, we can go grayscale. So, grayscale turns our screen black and white and makes your apps look less engaging when you're trying to focus. Okay. Another strategy is considering a digital vacation. So, maybe you want to choose one day a week to completely stay away from your device, um, or maybe even just like a few hours of a day. Whatever it may be, that really helps to recharge our mental space and typically makes us feel more calm as well. If taking time away from your device for a whole day seems very overwhelming, then maybe you want to opt for a half day vacation or only a few hours. Another great strategy is by creating device free zones and times. I love this one. So, designating times of your day or spaces in your home to be device free can be really impactful strategies. So, for instance, maybe you want the bedroom to be a device free zone. And we'll talk a little bit about sleep hygiene in a few minutes here. Um, But yeah, so creating those device-free zones can help to create spaces for us where we feel more relaxed and where we can spend more time um, on ourselves or on our family members. And you can also find a central place to keep your phone, which can reduce the urge to check emails and notifications. So maybe you want to set up a specific like charging hub in your office or something, and that's where your um your phone is most of the time in your home office, so that it doesn't follow you into the kitchen, into the dining table, into the bedroom, and things like that, right? And another great strategy is creating a family time box. So, along with your kids, you can pick a room and time that you've decided you're all going to be device free. And then you can put all of your phones in a box and then spend a few hours or an afternoon together completely unplugged from all types of technology. And that can be another way in which we can really focus on our quality time with people who matter to us and strengthen those relationships. So, moving on to technology sleep hygiene. So, creating that space from your device at night can help you to feel more relaxed and can help you to sleep better. So, I highly recommend that you try to reduce screen time before bed and keep screens out of the bedroom if possible. It's really easy to stay up much later than we intended when we're online, texting, checking emails, looking at tomorrow's schedule, um, and just mindlessly scrolling through social media or watching YouTube videos before bed. And there's also a lot of scientific evidence that shows that the blue light emitted by our devices might affect healthy sleep long after we've turned our devices off. So it could be contributing to poor quality of sleep, maybe some insomnia, difficulty staying asleep, and difficulty reaching our deep sleep states. Most phones have something called bedtime mode, as well as some other devices like tablets as well. And bedtime mode is a tool that you can use to remind you to switch off at night. So you can schedule your bedtime mode so to be every day at 11 p.m., for instance. And it will give you a reminder to wind down for bed and start going to bed. And sometimes you can also choose whether or not, with along with bedtime mode, you'd also like your phone screen to go into a warmer hue or grayscale mode, which like I said, changes the tones of the screen. And do not disturb mode is also another tool that most devices have nowadays, which silences our notifications to help us get a better night's sleep. So if you're not expecting any urgent texts or calls from anyone, then that could be a tool that you use as well. We can also use tools for limiting our access. So if you have a very hard time limiting your technology use, then there are a number of apps and programs that can help you do so. So, Off Time, for example, is an app which helps users unplug by blocking distracting apps like Facebook and games and filtering communications. It includes information on how much you actually use your smartphone, and you can choose tailored modes like work, family, or me time to ensure that you have access to the things that you need but aren't distracted by the things that you don't need. Flipped is another great tool. If you find that you need a more aggressive approach to unplugging, Flipped is the app for you. So, Flipped allows you to lock your phone for a set period of time, and once you do, there's no going back. So, even restarting your phone won't disable the app, so it's impossible for you to cheat. So, if you truly need a good detox from your digital devices, this is a great tool to use to be able to do that. And Break Free tracks your digital usage and breaks down the information into easy to understand addiction scores. This app also shows you how often you unlock your phone screen, and it quite comprehensively logs your usages for the day, which is really great. And this system actually makes it really great for those who like to set goals for themselves and are very competitive and maybe like to challenge themselves. And in an ironic twist, it can almost be addictive to see how low you can get your addiction score. Okay, so those are some apps that can help us. Let's talk about how we can use technology for good with our in ways which support our mental health. So we can use technologies to connect with mental health professionals virtually. So, as I'm sure many of you are aware of, there are e-health and telehealth services which connect you by video conference or phone to medical professionals, which reduce barriers to healthcare and ensure that everyone can have access to the services that they need. Um, so, for instance, Talkspace and BetterHelp are two platforms and online portals that provide direct consumer access to mental health services. So, things like counseling services at a very affordable rate, making them very economically accessible for a large proportion of people. We can also use technology to help us stay active and in tune with our body health. So, for instance, Strava's mobile app and website, which is designed by athletes for athletes, can connect millions of runners and cyclists through the sport they love. So it's kind of like um, a miss a mix match between a activity tracker and a social media platform, but it's connecting you in a way that is healthy and which allows you to engage with others who also have the same healthy lifestyle habits that you do. EatFit is another fitness app which offers custom home workouts as well as healthy meal and nutrition plans. And Freeletics also offers digital coaching and nutrition planning as well. And there are a few other examples there on this screen if you'd like to give them a download, maybe check them out, see what works for you. We can also use digital apps in order to find guided meditations. So, for instance, the Calm app, Headspace app, Balance, and Petit Bamboo are all great ones. And we can also use technology to help us build new skills. There are endless platforms which allow us to do this. One of my favorites is Masterclass, which is a great online platform offering workshops in business, food, writing, design, style, home and lifestyle, wellness, tech, music, languages, and so much more. And on Masterclass, you can actually take cooking classes from Gordon Ramsay, space exploration classes from Chris Hadfield, creative writing classes from Margaret Atwood, self expression and authenticity classes from RuPaul. Essentially, you are learning from some of the experts in each of those fields. So that is pretty cool. Elevate is an app that helps us to master communication, math, and memory skills. TED is a platform which offers various podcasts and video presentations on various topics from people who are well known in each of the industries. Coursera has lots of great free courses. You can take everything from coding classes and learning Python and SQL to learning about project management or public health administration, whatever skill that you're interested in. And then there's also some language specific apps like Babbel or Duolingo, which are available for free as well. And lastly, we can also use technology resources to connect with our social support system. So, the people in our lives that are very important to us and that mean a lot to us. So, what are some examples? WhatsApp and FaceTime are two great ones. Ring Central, Zoom, Google Hangouts, and Skype. And all of these apps offer video chatting as well as messaging as well. So it's a great way to connect with our loved ones. You can set up um, conferences for a whole group of people if you want to meet with 5 or 6 family members or a few friends, for instance. So those are really great tools to help us stay connected with those people who best support our mental health through their social support. And with that, we've come to the end of our session. So I hope that you enjoyed the contents of this session. Thank you again so much for joining me here tonight. And on behalf of everyone at ShiftPosts, we really, really appreciate all that you do every single day as pharmacy professionals. You've played an absolutely instrumental role throughout the pandemic and in healthcare in general every year through through flu season and also in just the ongoing management of your patients. So do know that your efforts certainly do not go unnoticed and we're greatly appreciated for all of you. With that, I hope you have a lovely evening and I hope that you'll join me next week for our final week of Mental Health Mondays. Again, my name's Caitlin Lopes. Thanks again and good night.